things. So I want to talk now about Fingolimod. And the good thing about Fingolimod is we have two studies, which gives us much more certainties. You've got two studies that show the same thing. It's much more likely that they're right. So you reduce the fluke factor. And science part, has everyone managed to get through that and understand it? I guess you can have the slides after. I don't want to go through all of that because, like Dr. Turner, I don't do science. Oh, and we have a result. So this is the transform study, and this is, look at the numbers, 400 patients in each group. So very likely to be reliable. And this is a one-year study comparing Fingolimod, not with placebo, but with interferon. Because that's what we want to know, isn't it? Is it better than what we've got? It's no good having something that's as good as what we already have. This is compared with interferon beta-1a Avonex. Now, in the interferon playground, it's easy to pick on the weak ones, and the people have a go at Avonex for it being a weak drug. Well, okay, it may not be the most powerful interferon in the world, but it's certainly an effective treatment. There's no doubt about that. And I think we cannot argue with the answer that this stuff is about twice as good as interferon over about a year in terms of reducing frequency of attacks. But again, we got this problem with a rather low attack rate. And I'm going to come back to that in a moment to make a point about people getting better. I just want to emphasize that here we have a treatment better than placebo in reducing relapses. So to summarize it, without using graphs, I quite like just looking at figures because you lose the bias there. And here we have in the transform study for 12 months, quite a short study, before the trial, the relapse rate. On the trial, the relapse rate. And the interesting thing is that you go from a relatively high relapse rate to a relatively low relapse rate, whatever you do. Now, you all know the benefit of interferon is to reduce relapse rate by about a third. Not in this study. They've gone from 1.5 a year to 0.33 a year. That's more than I've got fingers to count up. What does that mean? And I'll show you later again what it means. This is what's called regression to the mean. This means if you're bad, you tend to get better in the short term. In the short term, MS has a relatively good prognosis. You look at people with frequent relapse, they tend to have fewer relapses. But still, there's a difference. So a lower relapse rate on 12 months of Fingolimod. Same way of looking at the data for the other study, which I haven't got a graph for. I don't want to show you too many graphs. 24-month study, and this is against placebo. And again, we have the pre-trial relapse rate here, which is slightly better than placebo. That's okay. And on placebo, you go from 1.4 to 0.4 relapses per year. MS has a relatively good prognosis in the short term. So whatever you take, dare I utter the words LDN, whatever you take, you may appear to show a benefit. And we have to be so careful to compare like with like, not just to say, I know when I'm better. I love it when my patients are better, but the question is why? And it's only when you compare that you can see a benefit. What we also get in this study is whether you get progression. And on placebo, over 2 years, these 400-odd patients, 81% progressed. But on Fingolimod, there was a reduction in the rate of progression, just like with cladribine.